welcome to Planet Earth. How you doing? Mr. H here with you, man. I hope you had a fantastic week. And hey, it's going to be an even better weekend. You got Christmas coming up, so I hope you get all your presents or just get a bunch of cash. That works for me too. Maybe everybody just leave you alone. All are good choices. No wrong answers here. So anyway, welcome to Planet Earth. Mr. H here hanging out with you. Hey, let's keep going into the Roman Empire here. Talking about the 5 good emperors. Starting off with Nerva. Now, after Domitian had deprived us of his company, after someone had deprived him of his life, Nerva was a respected Roman emperor. A Roman senator, later respected emperor. There was some talk about disbanding this empire thing and going back to the Republic, but Nerva, a good sense of history, as most Romans, knew the Republic was hopelessly corrupt and decided to stick with the empire, and he gets to be emperor, so maybe it has something to do with his thinking. He was pretty old at the time. He'd been in the Senate for a long time, and Domitian hadn't killed him, so he must have known something, doing something right. He knew the whole bureaucracy, he knew everybody there, so he's a perfect guy for an emperor. He was well respected. He was getting up there, too, and he knew he was closing in on the finish line. He did something that was very, very smart. That's why they call these 5 guys we're going to go through today, the 5 good emperors, capitalized, 5 good emperors, because this is where Rome reaches its territorial height, its height of power, everything. And these guys had a little secret to their success, and their secret is that for a successor, they just picked the best guy. Didn't have to be their son, didn't have to be related to him. They picked the best guy regardless of who he's related to. And the guy succeeding Nerva is going to be a Roman general named Trajan. He kind of got strong-armed a little bit into getting Trajan, but turned out to be the best pick, and even Nerva said, yeah, I'm glad I picked this guy. Nerva had a couple sons, but he didn't want them becoming emperors because, in case you haven't noticed, a lot of these people don't really die from natural causes. It's just a very stressful job, and yeah, it's got some great perks, but I don't think you really want it, right? So anyway, Nerva finally, he adopts Trajan as his son. It's kind of a strange thing to do, but that's just how it operated back then. I can just imagine Trajan, hey, thanks for making me emperor, but yeah, I'm 50 years old, I'm not calling you dad, so that was that. But nonetheless, Nerva was very well respected. People say lots of good things about Nerva, even before he was an emperor. He drops off in 98, and here we go. Trajan. And yes, the snarky expression on his face tells you about his personality. Very competent, very well organized, and a bit of a smart aleck. Yep, he was always, even says in the primary sources, always telling jokes, always cutting people down because he's the emperor. Yeah, and it's just one of these guys who's really well involved with the running of the empire. Of course, he's a general, so the army loves him a lot. He went to war against Parthia, beat him pretty bad. Got to the Caspian Sea over there, where Baku is these days. Even got down to the Persian Gulf, and he was looking across the Gulf down there where Basra is today, looking across and saying, if only I was a little bit younger, I could be Alexander and go all the way to India. Then he had a stroke on the way back. So anyway, it was a pretty good run there for Trajan. Everybody liked him. The Catholic Church and Orthodox Church liked him too. They called him a virtuous pagan because the Roman Empire required everybody to give this loyalty to the polytheistic religion of the time. And the Christians, of course, wouldn't do that. You usually got executed, and started being thrown in the Colosseum. Trajan didn't really care too much about it. He said, just do this ceremony. I'm not going to worry about the rest. So he could really care less about the Christians. He thought they were kind of strange, but they weren't subversive, so they didn't worry about it. So virtuous pagan. At 138, the virtuous pagan has a stroke on his way back from the victory over Parthia. And he had already had a successor lined up. Like I said, people usually not directly related, but he had his cousin, Hadrian, ready. Like I said, maybe a cousin, but not directly related. He's only a few years older than Hadrian, so it's kind of strange to adopt him, but he did it anyway to keep the tradition going. So here we are. The Roman Empire at its very height. You see that? Sitting there, this is what Hadrian is going to inherit here after Trajan's work. See him there in the Caspian Sea, the Persian Gulf down there? The entire Mediterranean belongs to Rome, south half of Great Britain. I don't know about you, but I see a lot of beachfront property there. Look at that, man. I mean, you can make some serious money there, even with the Gulf and Caspian Sea, but they weren't there very long. Hadrian actually pulled the borders back in east a little bit to make it a little bit more defensible against Parthia. Some people weren't too happy about it, but hey, he's the emperor. What can you do? There's Hadrian right there. He wasn't Mr. Comedy Central like Trajan, but Hadrian really liked to build things. I think he really wanted to be an engineer, and if you're a Roman soldier, you do a lot of building anyway, just kind of the way it goes, building roads, building encampments, you know. And he really used to get involved. When they built Hadrian's Wall, yeah, he would actually lay down some of the bricks. Yeah, he really got into building stuff, building aqueducts, building roads all over the place. The famous Roman roads expanded under Hadrian, kind of like Eisenhower in the interstate system here in the States back in the 50s. Yeah, for Rome, already had the road system. He expands it even more. He actually did surveying on half the roads in the Roman Empire. He was all over the place, this guy. I talk about Hadrian's Wall there. He built it there across, the what would be England and Scotland. See those bricks? He actually laid some of those bricks down there. Yeah, he would push people away. Say, oh, this is how you do it, right? And then he leaves, and they got to put it back together again because he didn't know what he was doing. Once again, he's the emperor. He can do stuff like this. I'm not sure how effective that wall is. I'm looking at the one on the right. Yeah, it's about what, a foot there. It might be a 6-foot wall. You can still jump over that thing. I don't know. It just doesn't look that effective. Of course, we don't know exactly how tall it might have been because a lot of people would steal bricks off the wall to build their own houses there in Scotland, the other side in England. So, a lot of these rocks ended up somewhere far from where they started. But, hey, it worked for about 400 years. So, hey, thumbs up on that. Plus, another thing, he spent a lot of time in Greece. Hadrian. Yeah, he was a big fan of Greek culture, and like most educated Romans, Greek was his second language. He really loved Greek plays, liked to hang around at the theater a lot when he wasn't building stuff. They called him Greculus. Yeah, little Greek. That might be an insult, but, you always smile when you say it to the emperor because, Romans like to, crucify people. Well, after Hadrian died, we have Antonius Pius, 138 to 161. I call him Mr. Boring. Why? Well, we can't find any evidence of major military action. Isn't that strange? The Roman Empire built on war, and some people say slavery, a lot of blood and pain and armor, and you don't see really much of that in 138 to 161 with Antonius Pius. He was just kind of there, he did his stuff, and then he was gone. Well, that's kind of simplifying it. Antonius Pius was a guy who really didn't like being in Rome. This guy traveled to every single province in the empire. Yeah, he made a point to make sure he visited every province to make sure everything was running right. He was Mr. Paperwork, and like I said, Mr. Boring. But with guys like this, you need guys like this, or else the lights go out, the ice cream melts, and everything just goes crazy, right? So, a thankless job that he actually loved and embraced. So, he adopted Marcus Aurelius, again, no relation to each other, as his quote-unquote son. Marcus Aurelius succeeds him at 161 to 180. Marcus Aurelius probably was, they called him the philosopher emperor. He was really big into philosophy, not just Roman philosophy is basically based on Greek philosophy and stuff coming over to trade routes, Silk Roads and everything. He would, learn a lot about what they would call Eastern philosophy. The Buddhism had gotten started over in the East and found its way over through the Silk Roads and stuff like this. So he's really big into, I guess you'd call it, comparative religion. Marcus Aurelius, a very good emperor, very popular emperor, had to go into Germany a few times to keep the Germans on their side of the Rhine and the Danube, but, he did what he had to do and did a really good job. He did a fantastic job and then bobbled the ball at the end zone. Who remembers 2008? Desean Jackson, Philadelphia Eagles, catches what's supposed to be a touchdown pass, gets behind a Dallas Cowboys secondary, making a run for it, and spikes the ball on the 1-inch line. Yeah, that's called a fumble. That's what Marcus Aurelius did. He did a great job and then spiked the ball right outside the end zone right at the end. What did he do? He did something the other five good emperors never did. He named his son as his successor. Yep, he did. I don't know. He wrote a book called Meditations, right? It's about it's philosophy, and I tell you, if you ever read it, it'll put you to sleep. And I'm pretty sure he was reading this when he decided to name his son as a successor. And who was this guy? Commodous, or as I like to call him, Commodous, and that should tell you everything you need to know about this guy's personality. That's what he looked like, and we also know he liked to see himself as the second coming of Hercules. That's why he's wearing the lion headdress over here. Yeah, we're in trouble. You maybe not quite Nero, maybe not quite Caligula, kind of somewhere close to Domitian kind of guy. Yeah, you know something about Commodus. You've seen this guy, believe it or not. Yes, you have. Yeah. Remember that movie Gladiator? Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix. He's not just being Joaquin Phoenix, he's acting a lot like Commodus did. Looks kind of like Commodus a little bit. And that kind of tells you everything you need to know about Commodus. Commodus would occasionally go down on the Gladiator, go down, I almost said the Gladiator pitch, like the British would say, but he would go down on the Gladiator floor disguised. No one knew he was the Emperor, and he would fight and kill whoever's down there. Yeah, so they had no idea he was legitimately winning. Yeah, scary, isn't it? Most of the time he's up there in the Emperor's box watching things, drinking wine, eating grapes, doing whatever it is he's doing. Not a very nice guy, liked domination, had a nasty habit of executing people. Apparently didn't like his father very much and somehow still became the emperor, so I don't know what that was all about. I mean, the five good emperors all about keeping the empire going to the best guy, and somehow Commodus becomes emperor. And, well, it's going to start a string of a lot of bad emperors after this. The Roman Empire is going to start a long, slow decline. And the good thing about the Roman Empire is it had a really good bureaucracy. And as annoying as bureaucrats are and the bureaucracy is, it keeps things going. Yeah, I'm in a bad mood because I just found I got to pay extra taxes on my car here. But I'm on an anti-bureaucrat rant right now. But with them, it keeps the government going. So regardless of the kind of idiot you got running the show, if the bureaucracy is still there, the mail still gets delivered, the roads still get paved, and they still, dig the tunnels and they don't collapse in on you. So it's kind of a necessary evil. At the end of the day, though, are you not entertained, right? I mean, it's my famous, that's the best scene of the whole movie, I think, where he's in that on the lower league gladiator fight, screaming, "You're not entertained," at the crowd, spits on the ground and throws the sword at somebody. Yeah, you think WWE is something, man. Nothing compared to gladiators. Hey, speaking of ancient Greece and Rome, you ever read this book? I just got this one today. I haven't finished it, about halfway through, but it's pretty interesting. The First Fossil Hunters by Adrienne Mayer. She talks about how ancient Greece and Rome clearly discovered fossils, didn't know what to make of them. We weren't as advanced as we are, right? But, they were finding skeletons, and apparently a lot of mythological creatures find their origin not only in the stories, but the stories come from probably, finding the fossils and bones and putting stories together, which actually makes sense. She makes a very convincing argument that many mythological creatures like the griffin, the cyclops, and other things are actually based on finding fossils. And the ancient Greeks and Romans, no idea what to make of it, so they made it part of mythology because, as you know, Richard Owen is, in 1842 way down in the future. This is a skull of Protoceratops. Yeah, that could be a griffin. I mean, think about it. It's a skull. Got that beak on it right there? Yeah, I mean, so they found it in Mongolia, right over in the Gobi Desert, and that's where the griffin is. It's in the mountains, guarding caches of gold and golden eggs and things. So they find a Protoceratops skull in Mongolia near the Altai Mountains. It looks like a griffin. They decide it's what it was, and that's where the myth is born. I mean, take a look at this. They might have something here. There's the griffin over there on the right, Protoceratops over here on the left. You see the beak on this thing? That skull is big, it's heavy. Once the animal dies and decays, the skull gets detached and ends up somewhere else. They don't have the rest of it. Maybe they do find the bones, the whole skeleton, about the size of a griffin. Yeah, I think they've got a pretty good story arc here. Look at this. Even the Persians have stories of griffins. Protoceratops skulls, the Arturius skull over there, got the big beak. Yeah, I think they got something here. Sounds like a workable hypothesis. There were the griffin and Protoceratops talking to each other. I don't know what they're talking about. Maybe the Steelers and Bengals. I don't know. We'll get to that a little bit later. traveling along, I thought about that, and I was thinking, Protoceratops skull, I find it over in Mongolia someplace, the Gobi Desert, all-time mountain somewhere. And in order for that legend to get to Persia or get to Greece, somebody found this skull, put it on their camel, and went across the deserts into Central Asia, and somebody in Persia or even Greece found this thing and they sold it to them. And and the whole story goes from there. And what kind of guy does this kind of stuff? Who puts an ancient skull on the back of a camel and goes halfway across Eurasia to sell it? I asked Mrs. H that, and she said, "Oh, I know exactly who would do that. Yeah, Mr. H would do that kind of thing. That's exactly the kind of guy who would grab an old skull, go halfway across Eurasia, and sell it to somebody, right?" So I'll be honest with you. I think she's right. That's me there in the Superstition Mountains, just in case you wondered where that was. Some people thought that was in Greece, believe it or not. It looks like the Peloponnesus a little bit. Cowboy hat's a good giveaway. It's not Greece. Hey, we're talking about the Cyclops. Where does the legend of the Cyclops come from? Well, people say it's probably old mammoth or mastodon skulls. Yep, find them down in the Mediterranean. Of course, someplace further north, found their way over to trade routes again. Hey, Mr. H again, doing some traveling. So I'm thinking somebody probably found a mammoth or mastodon skull without the ivy tusk, which probably got ripped off and sold on a black market somewhere. And you see that big nasal cavity over there? Yeah, that could be mistaken as an eye. Maybe it's not fully intact, a little bit rounder. So that could easily be a skull of a cyclops. I saw this the other day too, so a lot of people have been wondering about that. Ancient Greeks and Romans find old skeletons. What are they? Could it be a cyclops? Could it be a griffin? Some other kind of monster? You wonder what comic book this is? Yeah, right there. I found it there for you. Science Comics, Fossils and Feathers. I'm looking around for it in just a few minutes there. I'm going to grab a couple copies of that thing, see what they got to say. Just thought you want to know. We also have the legend of Cetus. That's the sea monster in the Red Sea, where Andromeda said that her daughter was more beautiful than Aphrodite, and Poseidon got mad and sent the sea monster after Ethiopia there on the coast. Perseus has to go and defeat it. Again, this is a pottery. Pottery is like the pictures of that era. And of course, we don't have the skull that he's shooting at, but it appears that they found a skull of something, a mosasaur maybe, or maybe one of the Miocene whales or something. And somebody had hoisted this skull up, and it became the basis of some kind of myth. We don't know what happened to it, but it looks like people were aware of it. And another myth came out of it. Perseus, man, he gets around. The only guy got around more than him was Odysseus. Oh, it's a lot of fun to talk about those fossils. A lot more fun to talk about that embarrassing loss in Indianapolis last Saturday. Man, what happened there? 30-13 loss. And look at Indy with these alternative uniforms. Mr. H hates so much, right? Oh, insult to injury. Doesn't matter what they're wearing. They won 30-13. How does this happen? The Steelers jump out to a 13-0 lead. Looks like it's working out for them, and then utter and complete collapse. Everybody was happy to see Mitch Trubisky, and by the second period, they want Trubisky out of there. And so in comes Mason Rudolph, the third-string quarterback. It doesn't matter. At this point, it's just not looking good. And, of course, yes, I saw George Pickett not blocking there and people not giving an effort. I mean, you've got nothing else to do for 3 hours, man. Go all out. You got a whole week to get ready for the next game. And Indianapolis, let's just face it, they played better. No way around it. They won 30-13. So that puts Mike Tomlin on the hot seat, as he should be. No offense, Mike, I like you, but might be time to move on. That 2008 Super Bowl, we appreciate it, but that was a very long time ago. Since then, what you done for me lately? I mean, NFL, not for long. It's just the way the business is. A lot of people wondering if it's time for him to go. He doesn't appear to have a lot of control over the team. People arguing and shouting at each other in the locker room. I don't get upset when I see someone get mad and kick the water cooler or something on the sideline. Remember, these are very competitive players, so they tend to get mad about stuff. But when they're tweeting stuff and getting angry and shouting to the media, that comes down on the coach. Right? Coach has to be in control of this stuff. You got any problems, you keep it in-house. You got to keep focused on the game. That's what you do. If you don't like it, you're out of here. So Steelers are 7-7. Still got 3 games to go. So maybe they can pull something out. If I'm the owner of the Steelers, I've got the list together of people to replace Tomlin. It might just have to happen. So I'm of the opinion of give them 3 games, see if you can pull off a miracle or not. And if not, hey man, it's fun while it lasted. It's time to move on. You can talk about not having a losing season all you like, but yeah, like I said, what you done for me lately, man? What you done lately? So last time the Steelers won a game, they beat up on Cincinnati. Last time the Bengals lost, it was to Pittsburgh. There we are, Najee Harris straight arming a Cincinnati Bengal in an alternative uniform. I like that. Steelers offense is in disarray. This is the game after they fired Matt Canada, and they won 16-10, only 16 points. Since then, they've lost 3 in a row. Cincinnati's been on a tear and won 3 in a row. They are playing in Pittsburgh, so might have a little bit of hope there. My friend Steve has got tickets to the game. I told him you might do yourself a favor and sell them real quick, save yourself some money. But now if he's going to the game, he says, I'm keeping the faith. I said, okay, fine. Good luck. Bring me back a souvenir. So our starting quarterback, third one of the year, is going to be Mason Rudolph. Remember how I told you everybody loves the second string quarterback? Well, here he is, getting ready to go in. We're going to find out everybody loves him after the game. The Bengals are a 2.5-point favorite. Last I checked, dropped down to 1 point. So a lot of people think it's going to be close. If it's that close, you got a chance. Playing at home, maybe we pull something off here. Of course, they had 2 home games against Arizona and New England and lost both of them. So we'll just forget I said that. The quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, they're using their backup. Joe Burrow signed that huge contract, hurt himself. I think he was rolling around a huge pile of money he got. Well, Jake Browning has been doing a pretty good job for the Bengals. They've won 3 in a row. When he played against the Steelers, that game they lost, he actually played quite well, but not good enough. The last game they played last week, they beat up on the Minnesota Vikings. He had a little bit of a history with the Vikings. He had tried out for the Vikings, got cut by the Vikings, picked up by the Bengals. And, of course, he leads the Bengals to a victory over the Vikings. Right? He said it was a revenge game. He was very hyped up for it. So, basically, we are hoping that he has an emotional letdown and the Steelers can take advantage of it. That is what it has come down to. Right? You know how to play the game. You know how to win. Just do what you got to do. Whatever it is you're doing, do it right. So how's the rest of the season going to go? I don't know. We're 7-7. Still a chance at making the playoffs, especially as the NFL lets everybody in these days, it seems. So here we are. Very simple. I could talk about running games. I could talk about blitzes. I could talk about zone defense and man-to-man. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to do or do not. There is no try, right? So it's either going to be the beginning of a playoff run or it's an early start to the 2024 training camp. Which way is it going to go? Guess we'll know late Saturday night. So this is Mr. H. I had a lot of fun with you guys. I will see you next year. I'm going on vacation here for a week. I don't really think I'm going anywhere, but nonetheless, I'm just going to kind of hang out and chillax and probably do nothing of any particular value. So you guys have yourself a fantastic time. I will see you in a couple of weeks. Have a great day. Go Steelers, and we'll know a lot more when I come back in January. Das Vidanya. Don't forget to like and subscribe.